Now then, welcome back to the video. So in this video we're doing something a bit different. I'm not working on a motorcycle. I've actually got to do some work on my car over there. And for reference, this is a Volkswagen BORA Mark IV platform fitted with the PD130 ASZ diesel engine. And what I'll be doing is changing the tandem pump seals. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because when I was doing my research on how to do this job, I couldn't find many videos on how to do it. There's information on forums and stuff like that, so I thought, well, I'll make a video and hopefully it proves helpful for other people, because what the problem is the tandem pump is leaking. It's leaking diesel, and from what I've researched, this is a common problem with these engines. So hopefully this proves helpful. Let's go. Okay, so first, just give you an overview of the location of the tandem pump and what it does. So the tandem pump is this thing here. So I've taken the engine, plastic engine cover off. It is here, and it's mounted to the side of the cylinder head. And the reason why they call it a tandem pump, because it's a pump that has two purposes. It's a vacuum pump and a fuel pump as well, and it's driven directly off the camshafts. And basically, you've got obviously you've got fuel lines and you've got vacuum lines hooked up to it, obviously that's its purpose, and it's mounted to the cylinder head, and between the two there's seals to stop it from leaking. So what I've noticed is a drip on the floor recently, and then also when it's running, if I put my hand underneath the tandem pump, I can see, probably hard to tell because I've already wiped it, some diesel on my hand, and you might be able to see it looks quite wet beneath it. Okay. So like I said before, apparently this is a common problem. Well, this particular, my car here has done 328,000 miles, and it's only just started leaking, so I'm not surprised, to be honest. It's done a lot of miles, so I'm pretty impressed it's got this far without it leaking before. The actual seal kit, the seals themselves they're not very expensive. Okay, so the process to get better access to tandem pump removal is I'm going to remove the airbox, and that's done by a bolt there. I think it's 10mm, and there's another one down there. You've got your air hose here, and you've got your MAF sensor here. So there should be a hose clip here, but mine pinged and went to another dimension, so that's not there at the moment. I usually just use a zip tie, and you've got one there as well. So I'll just remove that and I'll bring you back. Okay, so the airbox and air intake pipe is now removed. Don't forget to not just yank it off, don't forget to undo this line here and also the mass airflow line, which I have now lost. Here it is. Undo that as well. Okay, I'll put it to the side. So here again we've got a tandem pump, bit of a better angle. So next you want to remove the fuel hose here, a vacuum hose there, and there's also the fuel return hose there, but that one's a bit difficult to get to, so I think I'm going to undo it from this point here and tap that whole section with the tandem pump as it's being removed. Okay. So once you've done that, to actually remove the tandem pump, you've got a Allen bolt here, Allen bolt there, and also you've got some slightly smaller Allen bolts there, and another one below it where the return hose connects. So you're going to need a 5mm Allen for the smaller bolts and a 6mm for the larger bolts. Okay, so I'll do that and bring you back. And we're back. Okay, so I've undid and removed all the bolts. I've disconnected the return hose, I've disconnected the vacuum hose. This one, I've moved the clip back. I can't quite get the hose back because of this pipe here. So what I'm going to do is withdraw that hose as I withdraw the tandem pump. You are going to get a bit of diesel spillage when you do this, so if you can find your wife's best towels and use that and just stuff it underneath just to catch it. So I'll show you me withdrawing the tandem pump now. Right, so I'll just undo that and I'll take the tandem pump over to the workbench. Okay. Okay, so I've got the tandem pump off the car. It's now on my workbench here. One thing I didn't mention previously is just make sure you disconnect this electrical connector here. I'm not sure what it is, maybe some sort of fuel pressure sensor, but make sure you disconnect that as well. If you're taking this hose with it like I have, if you're disconnecting it there, obviously it'll stay on the car, so you don't need to worry about it. Few points to note. Tandem pumps on these engines, you have two types. One type that comes with the seals here around the fuel area, and here around where it connects to the drive from the camshaft. Okay, so you have one version with the seals, and then you have another version which has actually got a metal crush gasket like this. Okay, so you need to make sure you get, when you're purchasing new seals and new gasket, you make sure you get the right one for your pump. As you can see, the reason why I'm showing this is because I made that mistake. I got this until I realised, once I looked at it, that I actually needed the actual seals, O-ring seals. Okay. Another point to note is what I'm doing here is to stop obviously an external leak of diesel externally. These pumps can fail a different way, where you'll see fuel in the oil, and that's due to internal seals failing. This video does not cover that. I think you can buy repair kits for them, but I think it's not so cost effective. You're better off buying just a second-hand unit off the internet, I would say. Okay, so this is just for an external leak. It doesn't cover any internal fuel with oil issues you may be having. So next step, I will use a pick and I'll pick out these old seals here, give this all a nice good clean, some brake fluid cleaner or carb cleaner, something that evaporates, put the new seals in, and I will bring you back. One seal. And the other seal. Bang my elbow. Oh, don't swear. Right, got some Elizabeth car cleaner. Very good. Clean up. Get a nice clean rag. If you can help it, try not to misalign this, because obviously that has to connect with a gear on the camshaft. So if you turn that or move it out of the way, it won't line up and you might struggle to reinstall it. So try not to touch that or rotate it at all. It'll help with reinstallation. So you want to get any crud that's stuck in these grooves where the new seals will go, like I've got. Okay. Lovely jubbly. Okay. Seals. Seals of approval. So the first one, which I think is the one that's at fault, because I've got a diesel leak, it's the one that covers the section where the fuel return is. So my theory is that this is the one, or the old one is the one that's at fault, and you can see when you do a comparison, well, what happens is these seals over time they get too squashed and they don't create a seal anymore. You can tell, but my new one's probably a good millimetre thicker, so this should solve the problem. So you want to put it back into position like that, straight in, and then the other one. I think typically if you're seeing an oil leak around this area as well, it's usually this one as a fault, which seals where it connects the drive to the camshaft. And there we are. Let's put it back on the car. Okay guys, so she's all back together, the tandem pump reinstalled and all the lines. For you torque Nazis out there, the big Allen bolts are 20 Newton meters and the little ones are only 10, so be careful with the 10 Newton meters. Obviously that's not very much torque at all, you don't want to strip the threads and have a bad day. Okay, so the next step would be to start the car and see if it's still leaking, or hopefully we've rectified the leaks. One problem we've got now since removing and reinstalling the tandem pump, we've lost fuel in the line, so you've potentially got an air gap between the start of the fuel line and the unit injectors. So if I was to just straight away try and start it now, it would crank for quite some time. Okay, you can mitigate that by either toggling the ignition on a few times, and that's going to activate the lift pump in the fuel tank. So that's going to help pressurise a bit of the system up to the tandem pump, but you're still going to have that gap between the pump and the injectors, unfortunately. Another method that I've done in the past is you can remove the fuel return hose from the fuel filter here, install a vacuum pump, and then actuate the vacuum pump, and you can draw fuel through the lines, essentially priming the entire system. What I'm going to do is just the first method, just toggle the ignition on and off. I do expect it, even with that, for it to crank quite some time. I'm okay with that because I'm quite happy with the starting system on this car. It's got a brand new battery, so there's no concerns there about draining a battery completely flat. So in the next video I'll show you starting up. Now next step is to check for leaks.